Welcome everyone to AI Literacy webinar. I am Dina Lakayan, CEO of Create, Regulatory Affairs Consultancy firm with expertise in EU MDR, Canadian medical device license registration, and FDA submissions. We are excited to have you here today. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Maarten de Moors, Chief Technology Officer at Create. Maarten is a passionate and communicative business leader in medical device field with unique combination of expertise in healthcare, business, and science. He studied physics and began his career as a software developer at Philips. He currently also serves as head of business line at Elekta, where he contributes to development of cutting-edge medical device technology. Beyond his work in medtech, he also provides digital services including photography, videography, mobile app development, and AI-driven solutions for both individuals and businesses. With that, let's get started. Maarten, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dina, and thank you for that glowing introduction. So welcome to the first Create AI literacy training. Literacy as in reading and writing. And we really believe it is that important. But don't take our words for it. Let's look at what some industry leaders had to say. The current and former CEO of Google and a former CEO of IBM are basically saying, get left behind at your own peril. So you are the people who are doing it right. You are already, by joining this webinar, ahead of almost everyone else. So well done, congratulations on that. So you probably know some of these commercially available generic models, and there are differences between them. To be very honest, the differences are quite subtle sometimes and hard to quantify. The most famous ones are DeepSeek from China, Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini from the United States. And if I would put my European Union hat on, I should really include Mistral, but that is from France, which is a little less known. All these have their strengths and weaknesses. You can read for yourself on the slide. And one thing to really be aware of with these models, as the word says, is they are generic. In the words of Eric Vollebrecht, some of you may know, they are generalists. They are not specialists in anything. They're a little bit good at a lot of things. Another thing which is key to remember with these models is data privacy. DeepSeek is an open source model. You can run it on your own computer if you're a bit of a nerd like me. But if you run it through the app, it is a Chinese system, just saying. Claude and Gemini have pretty good privacy controls. They do not use your data by default for training. ChatGPT does this in the free version, and in the paid version, you can switch it off. So that's another thing if you put your personal data in, but also of course, your company confidential data. Now, in this webinar, we're going to look mostly at the specialized ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, and brothers. But what you're learning here can be applied to other language models like the ones I showed, or Microsoft Copilot or other systems as well. I'm going to start with a little bit of theory that's a little bit dry, but the concepts I explain will hopefully help you understand not just why, just know what you need to do to get the most out of an AI, but also why it is that. And I feel that such an understanding always helps. Then we're going to go into some prompting principles, prompting being the art of telling the AI what you want it to do. And then a very important topic, I think, is to reduce hallucinations. AIs have a bit of a reputation, which may be overblown, but still, of making things up, inventing facts. And I will show you how both the technology that we use, but also some techniques you can use, can help to reduce those hallucinations. Then we go into some more advanced techniques. By this time, you will be pretty proficient, and we'll go into some advanced techniques for prompting. And finally, we look at how to get the most of the various types of AI model, because to make things a little more complicated, it's not just one type of AI, there are multiple types. And again, they have their strengths and weaknesses. I will try to explain to you where to use which one. And then we end with, before the Q&A, that's what we end with. But before the Q&A, we have some practical real-life prompts from the Create consultancy business that you can apply and, of course, change at your will for your own regulatory purposes. So ChatMDR, I showed you the commercial models. Now, what is different here? First of all, ChatMDR has a very deep information retrieval. If you've used it, or ChatIVDR, ChatFDA, then you will notice that it doesn't immediately start talking. That's because it's actually drawing up a lot of information from the regulation, from the guidances, and it processes that information. Then there's data privacy, as I already touched upon, very important. And all our customers are saying, look, I'm putting my intellectual property in here. My company's data, what sets me apart from the competition, what I may not want everybody to know about. And with ChatMDR, we have by default, all data sharing is off. We don't look at the data. We don't share it with the AI model provider. Your data is and will always remain your data. Finally, what all of this leads to is factual accuracy. The model is trained and validated to avoid fabrications, things making up, and it refuses to answer generic questions. It says, look, I'm a specialist on regulatory affairs. The test case I always use is a recipe for pumpkin pie. It will just flatly refuse to do it. Well, there are actually four. I should have added the Chat AI Act, which is relatively new to this overview for the MDR and IVDR in Europe and FDA medical devices in the United States. And you can switch between these. I'll show you that in a minute, how that works. So you can start talking about a device in Europe and you said, okay, so how do I bring this to market in the USA? You can do that too. So here's a little video that I'll play as something we recorded before. So you can have a look at where the various user elements are. So let me start this up. And first of all, here is on the left side of the screen, you see the various agents, as we call them, the various regulations, MDR, IVDR, FDA. There is a specific tool for FDA device classification, which is a bit different in the US. And here is the AI Act. And like I said, you can, within one chat, you can switch back and forth between these models. Then here on the more or less left middle side is the AI model selection. We'll cover these models later in the webinar and what they're for and what they're good at. Now here's a little toggle. You see the blue globe icon, that is for web searching. Now we've switched it off. And now we've put a question in. It takes a little bit longer, as I explained, and then you get an answer. With each answer, you get sources or references. So these are the articles that were used by ChatMDR in this case to find this answer. You can click on them and you get more clarification. You can copy the entire content with a little copy icon to your clipboard and paste it. And now we're pasting it in the chat again, but you can paste it in Word or an email or whatever you need it. Then if you want to share with your coworkers or even online in a Twitter post, whatever, sorry, I should say X, you can also share this link and that will be stored online and that will be used then. It's there forever, so you can always reference to it. So those are some of the user interface elements. Not to say that you now have to start using it. Please pay attention to the webinar. But the idea is that when we now touch upon various concepts like models and so on, then you know where they are. Fundamentals of one of those large language models, right? These are the models that OpenAI and Google train. And what it actually does, it does a number of things. It processes your input, your prompt, the text that you type into the tool, and then it adds context information, and this context is based on your prompt. So if you ask something about device classification, it will get pieces of information about device classification, and then all of that goes into a response generation engine where it generates the text that you eventually see. The context is very, very important because the context is all the information that the AI will use to base its answer on. So you'll see this coming back multiple times. The context window is composed of all the previous chats and the prompts and the information retrieval. So the information retrieval is the process I just touched upon. Is you ask about device classification and it goes in the big database, let's say, and it finds everything from the IVDR, for example, and MDCG documents about device classification. And then it has that kind of like a scratch pad, and then it generates the response based on all of that. Now, this is quite large. And I mentioned before that if you use one of the ChatIVDR or ChatFDA tools, then you'll notice that it takes a while for it to generate a response compared to ChatGPT, which sort of starts talking immediately. This will be, buzzing for a few seconds, and that is because it's retrieving and processing all that information. It's roughly 30 pages of text that go in with your prompt. Your prompt is only 5 lines maybe, but then 30 pages of text is added as context. And that allows it to also stay on script, if you will. So here you see it. The user prompt goes into a so-called context window, and then that is used for a semantic search. And a semantic search is like a Google search, but a Google search is a keyword search. So if you use search for Apple, then you get all documents with probably computers and fruits. But a semantic search as well. An apple is a fruit, so it will also have a connection to pears and oranges. It's not as strong of a connection, but there will be a connection. And that is really good if you miss the exact phrase, you say clinical trial instead of clinical investigation or something like that, it will still know what you mean. So from this huge database, especially in the case of the FDA, it's many, many gigabytes, it provides it to the LLM, the large language model, and in the AI application. What's the difference between putting something in the context window? So let's say you have a part of your document or an entire NDCG guidance. You can use copy paste from Acrobat, and you can put that in the context window, or you can use and that's the default, the retrieval augmented generation. Also, if you use our enterprise version and you've uploaded all your files like a technical dossier, then it will pick the relevant part. The context window, the entire information is processed. So everything you put in the context window is processed, but it's of limited size. If you put too much in, at one point ChatMDR is going to say, I'm sorry, that's too much information. The model cannot process it. With the augmented generation, it just takes the bits it needs. But that means you have to use it differently. Everything in the context window is used, but if you're going to say, I have a number of risks, for example, give me an analysis of all the risks in my system, then you need to make sure all the risks, you have to paste them in the context window and not use the augmented generation. I can imagine this sounds a little bit abstract, but we'll come back to with more practical examples later, and I hope it will start to make sense. All right, so with that theory out of the way, now we go into some of the fundamental prompting principles. And if you're going to forget everything else that I've said, please remember these two things. Be specific and provide context. They're actually versions of the same. Really tell the AI clearly what you want. I always compare it to, you have a very junior employee and you have to kind of lay it out. Don't assume that they understand. So for example, I grew up with Google myself, and when you're Googling, then you would put in keywords. I explained the keyword concept now. So you would do, you're lazy, so you type as few words as possible. But the AI works better if you give it a little more to go on, because then with the semantic searches I explained, it will be able to find the relevant documents. So instead of saying QMS requirements EU, then you can also give a device class in there, and it will have a lot more to go on. It will find where class 2B is specifically mentioned in the regulation or in the guidances, for example. Or in the last one, if you get 510K pathways, it'll give you a lot of information and you have to search in Google. The AI is better if you add, okay, I'm a little bit more specific and I want to talk about wound dressing in this case. Sounds obvious perhaps, but it works. So basic prompt, classify this wound dressing. And a more effective prompt is to say, okay, you're a regulatory expert, you classify the wound dressing under MDR, cite the relevant rules, make a bullet list, you can add that too, we'll come to that. Here's a very interesting thing, I think, is ask me clarifying questions. So you instruct the model to, if it gets stuck and says, yeah, I don't know how long the body contact is this intact skin? Well, with the wound dressing, probably not, but is this intact skin or not? And then it will just ask you. And in the second iteration of your chat, you say, no, it's more than 60 minutes. And then you will get the rest of the result. So very clear, specific task with defined output requirements. That's a good prompt. Now, as I said before, it's a conversation. So you don't have to cram everything in the first prompt. You don't have to get it all right the first time. So you give information, you get an answer, and you'll have a moment of, yes, okay, that's great, but what about this? Ask. Keep asking, review the response, and then at one point you say, okay, this is good. And then as a next follow-up, you can say, okay, now summarize it for my document, translate it to French, give it to me in 2 sentences for my CEO who has no time. So you can do all those things. That's the conversation nature. I think many people use a chatbot as a one shot, as we call it. You put something in and it comes out, you look at it and not perfect. That's okay, because you just ask again, you keep going. Very interesting is also role-based prompting. What we learned is that AI models are actually really good at pretending to be someone else. The default instruction in ChatFDA or ChatIVDR, ChatMDR is you are an AI assistant that will help your customer to be compliant with the least effort. That's the system prompt, more or less. It's longer, but this is the system prompt, what the system is built on. But you can also say, okay, I have this rationale, but I'll pretend to be the notified body and try to shoot some holes in it. And that can be really helpful to prepare for an audit or do a document review, or not sure about this. Are all these statements defendable? So that's where you can actually use the AI as a devil's advocate or reviewer or someone else, or your manager. You want to sell something to the board and you say, oh, they're not going to like that we have to do more testing, but how do I defend this? You know, let the AI take care of that for you. Then finally, output format. You can just, if you do nothing, if you specify nothing, you get kind of a story. It'll tell you, and depending on what the question is, it will give you a bullet list or not. But you can specifically say, I want a table comparing MDR and IVDR for this device. I want a of requirements for my clinical evaluation or PSUR. You can read the other examples, right? Give me a table of contents for my document and so on. In the prompt, you can do that later. Now summarize it for me, put it in a table, and so on. This will save you time. You don't have to do it yourself based on the text that comes out of the AI. These tools can make you lazy. That's a good thing. All right. So second and last poll of this webinar, we're going to go to the important topic of hallucinations. And the question is going to ask you, where do you think they come from, these hallucinations? So Dina will put the poll up and we'll give you a minute again. And we'll then, of course, discuss hallucinations, how to avoid them. And here's the question. Oh, this is a multiple selection? So you can, if you think, well, it could be multiple things, then you can pull that as well. I'll put that in. How are we doing with our participants?
Yeah, 5 responses.
5 responses. It's a difficult question, I guess. Okay. We not too much time. We can move on with the answer. So what are people answering, Dina? Yeah, and not because it's the majority and I want to please you as a friendly AI assistant. I am real, by the way, but that is the correct answer. So hallucination when an AI doesn't have enough information to go on. So it's not that, for instance, the answer is not that it's connected to the wrong data source. That's not a hallucination. That is just, yeah, it provides the wrong data. But it aims to serve you. It aims to help, right? It wants to help. But if it doesn't have enough information, it says, oh, it's probably this. It's a probability engine. So how to avoid hallucinations? Now, first of all, compared to the commercially available tools that I showed, ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, ChatFDA already have system prompting in there to make sure that it provides references and it's prompted to don't make things up. But you can also permit the model in your own query. You said, if you don't know, just say, I don't know. Demanding sources is very good. If you have references, then not only will it include those references in the context, but you can also very quickly, by clicking on one of the references, verify if that makes sense. A very important one, and we'll see how that goes in a minute, is step-by-step reasoning. You can ask the model, and some models do this automatically. You can ask it to just let you take it through the various steps of the reasoning. And then you can see, oh wait, here it goes wrong. So it's not a black box and then an answer comes out. You say, I thought of this and then that, and then therefore it must be this. And then you can see if it took a wrong turn. Most important of all, see the question. Context is king. Include information as possible. And one of the ways to do it is actually building up the context with a prompt first and then ask the question. And I will show you how that is done. So here is a prompt. What are the clinical evaluation requirements for medical devices? Now, actually, if you put that in ChatMDR or ChatIVDR or ChatFDA, it'll actually tell. But if you would put this in ChatGPT, it says, well, I don't know which medical device regulation we're talking about. Is this EU? Is this FDA? Is this Japan? I have no idea. So a safe prompt would be specify what you are providing, right? So you paste the text from your clinical evaluation plan and then actually specify where it needs to look in Article 61. Of course, you can also say, what's the MDR article on clinical evaluation again? Then they'll say it's Article 61, and then continue with the next question. Then you don't have to look it up yourself. That's, again, being a little bit lazy. And the final part of this prompt is, if information is insufficient, just say so. You know, don't feel compelled to make things up. So this works a lot better. And the two-step method is a little bit what I was saying, is that you actually put a lot of information in the context window. As I explained before, and there's this phrase, context window again. Come this weekend, you'll be able to, at birthday parties, pretend to be a complete expert and talk about context window as if this is the thing you've always done. You can put in what is the regulatory pathway for, in this case, ICDs, and then it'll put a lot in the context window. And then when that is in there, then you ask your real question, and it will know, because now it has 30 pages of text times 2 to work with. So this is a really good way to prevent hallucination. Now we can go one step further, and now we come to the advanced prompting techniques. Now that we know how to prompt the AI, I'm going to teach you some other things. So the first one is the large language model as a judge. And then you actually ask the AI to check itself. And it can be pretty strict. You would think, yeah, you put it in the AI and you ask it, and of course it says, oh, I was right the first time. But since it doesn't have a conscience, it actually will take this text wherever it came from and really critique it. And it can be pretty tough. So then you can use the AI, if you say review the above answer or check its correctness, then you can do an additional fact check before the human review, which always stays important. That's hopefully obvious. So you can challenge assumptions. You saw before the devil's advocate. That's also a great one to use here. You can ask for verification. You can ask for sources, references, and also maybe force it to think out of the box by saying, how might others look at this requirement? So then you can get a balanced perspective. Then we come to models. So I showed you in the video the AI model. So it's a little bit expanded here. It's on the left side of the user interface over here. And there are various models, a light bulb, a diamond, and a hat of some kind. What are they? First of all, any model will give good results. So it doesn't, if you don't know and you clicked something, it's probably fine. But the power users know how to make the most of each model. So the light bulb is the smart model. And the smart model is very good at making descriptions, good text that reads nicely, good formulation. It's very good at combining content from files in your enterprise search, or from the web or wherever, or what you paste in it. What it doesn't do so well is planning. So if you want planning, if you want to think of a strategy like, oh, you know, I have to do something and I don't know how, then use Diamond. Diamond is called a reasoning model, and between brackets you see the official name from OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, and they're not very good, in my humble opinion, with product names, so that's why we call it Diamond, to distinguish it. And what Diamond will do, it will plan several steps, and it will actually show you in a little pop-out how it got there. It's really good to make a plan. It's not so good at content generation. And that brings me to the Scholar model, which is a hybrid, the best of both worlds, literally, that will first make a plan and then do the actual execution. Now, the only thing that Scholar is not so good at, if you put a lot of content in into the first shot, then it will only use that for the planning phase. So it's better, if you're going to do that, it's better to first use the smart model in the same chat and then switch to Scholar. But let me tell you a little bit more about how Scholar works. It really does a three-step approach with the planning, execution, and then bring in the context. So you really ask it to think and make a plan. So think, then act, which in any human interaction is usually a good idea as well, right? And then you give the plan and the context from the MDR, MDCG, or IPDR, whatever you have, to the smart model. So then it's not just 30 pages of text in your prompt. It is your prompt, a plan to get to the answer, and based on that plan, the relevant context. So that's really, really thorough. And then you get complete responses with a lot of citations. Scholar is also really good at giving references and citing relevant articles. So example prompts, we'll go into some bigger ones, but just to give you an idea. So for instance, for smart, you can copy paste a question from a notified body from your technical file review and your answer that you intend to send. And then you can say, improve my answer or critique my answer and include the relevant MDR and guidance references. Diamond, as I said, is more a planner. So you think, oh, how do I do this? I have this safety issue outside the EU. What do I need to do in the EU? Is there anything I need to do? Spoiler alert, yes, there is. But the Diamond is really good at that. And then Scholar is for a bigger challenge, right? So how do I set up my technical dossier in such a way that I can efficiently satisfy two regulatory realms? That is really good for Scholar. So we'll see more advanced prompts, but these are just to give you an idea of when to use which. So in summary of the tips so far, and then we go into the practical prompts. Be clear. Start with clear instructions. Pick a role if you want, like a notified body or something. Include text when possible. You can include part of the regulation. I think MDR says this. What do you think about that? Then it will automatically have it. Or, of course, text from your own files, from your own technical dossiers, notified body responses, and so on. If you have complex questions that require planning, request a step-by-step reasoning. Say, show me how you get to this answer. And then you get a traceable, verifiable answer, and not just, okay, this is the answer, I guess. No, you see how it got there. And then when you have an answer, then you can verify it with a second prompt, of course, and a human review in the end. But before you get to the human review, you can already have a few interactions with the AI to test your answer. So with that, let us show you some real life use cases. And I think these are pretty fun because they are not just, academic things about pumpkin pies, but these are really examples that we've used in our day-to-day work. The first one is what we call our power classification prompt. It's really good with Scholar. It's for device classification under MDR, IVDR. And the parts that are colored yellow is what you would substitute, right? So this is kind of a template prompt. So here the example is an endoscope that you would want to classify. And what you want is the rules, right? You want to copy this into your technical file and not just say, oh, it's class 2A, but you want to justify that. So give me the rules. And if you touch upon a problem or you don't know, then ask me a clarifying question. Also, what we put in here is try to find the lowest device class possible, but of course you have to be able to defend it. When you do that, what Scholar will actually go out and do is say, well, if it's this, then you can claim 2A, but if you do that, like, I don't know, some image analysis and diagnosis, then you have a risk of going 2B. So then you also have to know how you have to tell your product management or marketing team to structure their claims. Of course, you can put the claims in here as well, right? You can, if the claims are already made, you can put them in here. So intended use, mode of action, is it sterile, is it sterilizable, is it single use, body contact, whatever you think is relevant, put it in. Software, in the use of AI, and then it will actually go out. It may ask you a few questions, you will respond to those questions, and then it comes with your device classification, not just the one class 2A, but also how it got there. Then there's an interesting case we had where we had a medical device that was used by lay people and healthcare professionals. So we wanted it to reason if a certain approach we chose with the instructions for use would meet the requirements, and should we do anything else. So this is the typical case for Diamond. Like, sit, think, don't start talking, just figure it out. And as you can see again, context, you know it by now. There's a lot of information here. It's not just if you just put this first sentence in, we have a novel medical device for layperson and healthcare professionals. What do I do? Yeah, it's not going to give you such a good answer because it doesn't know what you mean. So this is really a very and it gave us a great answer on this one as well. Reporting prompts, and this is for Diamond or Scholar. If you have access to Scholar in the premium versions of our application, and Scholar is always better. So this is something for a recurring error. And are we required to report this use error, even if no harm has occurred? You have to think about that one. And maybe how can you justify, that could be a follow-up question, how can you justify not making it reportable? Or what should I change in my instructions for use in my design to prevent this error, right? So you can really go on with this sort of prompt as well. This is not so long, but it's really are we required to, do we have to do this? Those sorts of questions, you tend to go with Diamond or preferably Scholar. Here's another Scholar one. This was a hard one. There are, if you have incidents, but it's an over-the-counter device, right? There's not so much tracking. So you don't have an installed base, if you will. So what is the recommended approach when you're not monitoring trends? It's another one that you really have to think about, but then you also have to describe the approach. So that is thinking and formulating, and that's where Scholar really comes in. So these are some, again, quite a detailed prompt that we actually took a little bit of time to write. This is a funny one. This is the secret sauce of the MDR Chats podcast. You may be familiar with it. A new episode aired the day before yesterday about MDCG 2025-4. And next week we'll also have, I think, -5 and -6, which came out recently. So what we did the first time, we were playing actually with the tool, and we thought, oh, can we make a podcast script? Can the AI do it? So this is the prompt we used. You paste the entire MDCG guidance, just copy paste from the PDF. And then you say, make a podcast script for a podcast that's called so-and-so. The host is Oliver Harris. Actually, the first time we didn't have a host name in there, and it came up with Oliver Harris itself. And then you see at the bottom here, you probably wouldn't use it like this, but we have a script that actually generates the audio with AI. And the way it works is it has the name of the voice. The voice of Oliver is called Fable. And then you have a vertical bar and then the text. Now, you wouldn't use it, but it is in this way because you don't have that script. But it's an example of how you can really, really tailor the output. If you want to copy it into some tool, you can do comma separated. You can do things line by line, tables like I explained. So this is a nice example of how you make the format. And so the MDR Chats podcast, if you listen to it, it basically came from text that came out of ChatMDR. This is another funny one, and our last example is cheating on the RAC exam from RAPS. Don't tell the teacher. You can put in a question. In fact, the question, the bold-faced part at the bottom of the slide, is a question from the RAC exam for devices. And We put the entire exam actually once in ChatMDR and ChatFDA, and it passed. First of all, it passed with 87% score. But then when we went in the details, then because we've asked it a motivation for the answer, remember in high school you always had to do that, not just A, but also why. And we actually found that it discovered a number of ambiguities in the questions. So then we actually were able to report 2 RAPs saying, look, these questions are questionable, if you forgive the pun, because it has several answers that are possible. So it gets the right answer. I think the right answer is A, but it will also tell you why this is. I didn't put it in, but this is a great one for smart. You don't need the reasoning capability so much. Okay, last pro tip. There are a lot of prompts in this presentation, and of course we'll share the recording after our second webinar. You have an AI tool at your disposal. So there is inside ChatMDR and ChatIVDR one of our enhancements over the standard ChatGPT. It actually enhances your prompt a little bit, but you can just say, I don't know how to write a prompt. I just want to do this and I want that. Can you help me write a good prompt? And it will actually help you use that. And then once you have the prompt, you can reuse the prompt the next time you have the same use case, of course. That's the great thing. Otherwise, you could ask the question and copy the answer, but it can actually give you the prompt as well. So again, use the AI. It never gets tired. It will always keep going. So you can ask it to improve your prompts. So before we go to the question and answer section, to get your questions ready, type them in the Q&A and Dina can promote them. Just a few tools that I thought would be helpful to know next to, of course, the tools that we are very excited about, ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, ChatFDA, and ChatAI Act. Here are some that we use a lot. The first one is TurboScribe. You can Google it, but it's turboscribe.ai, and it will convert audio or video, including YouTube videos, to text. So when this webinar is online, or you have a YouTube video by someone else, and you think, oh my gosh, it's 15 minutes. I don't have time for that. You can put the whole video or the link to YouTube in TurboScribe. It'll give you text. And then, of course, this text you can put in your AI chatbot. Right? You can chat with it. You can summarize it. You can give the highlights, share it with your team. So that's a really valuable tool. Another favorite is NotebookLM. It's by Google. And that is kind of a OneNote type of thing, but you put information at PDFs, could be clinical articles, for example, and it will do a retrieval augmented generation on those, and then you can chat with that database. So you can ask questions and talk about podcasts. NotebookLM also can make you a podcast. So if you want to learn something, regulatory or otherwise, you put a lot of PDFs in there, and then you create a podcast and you listen to it in the car on the way home. It's really nice. Finally, Gamma. Gamma is a presentation tool. You've been looking at it actually for the past, 41 minutes. Gamma is a tool that generates slides based on AI input. So the first version of this deck was made as follows. I put in ChatGPT, actually deep research. I said, give me some good prompting tips from around the web, from OpenAI, from Google, from other people. Then scan the ChatMDR website for some tips and tricks, and ingest this TurboScribe thing from a video that I actually made. And it came up with a framework. So you can get in a matter of minutes, you have a pretty decent starting point for your presentation, and then probably what you're looking at took a couple more hours to refine, but then you have a nice presentation. Can also be good to share the results of your work with your colleagues or whatever you want. So that brings us to the question and answers. While you put those in the chat box, maybe Dina, can you share that nice example you had about the RAC exam?
Yeah, thanks, Maarten. I will display it. So as Maarten said, we have registered for RAC example exam, and I'm going to display the report. So here is the report that we got. In this case, the exam passed with 86% score using our smart model. And when I was curious why it didn't score higher, because I'm quite confident that our models are quite good. But so I went through the questions that it gave wrong answer. And one of these questions was this question that I thought is a good example to show you. So the question is that a US-based manufacturer produces a Class 1 medical device with a CE mark that's sold in Germany. The authorized representative is located in the Netherlands. An identical medical device is sold outside of the EU. An incident is reported in Japan and leads to an FSCA. The US-based manufacturer immediately identifies the problem and makes the change to prevent the further incidents. How should the US-based manufacturer inform of the situation? And the options are appropriate authorities outside of the EU, CA in Germany, CA in the Netherlands, and the notified body. So we want to, so the US, to wrap up the question, is a Class 1 medical device, it's CE mark. It's sold in Germany, the authorized representative is in the Netherlands, and we have a FSCA case in Japan. So how should the US-based manufacturer inform the situation in the EU? And the correct answer here was given by Rakizan was CA in Germany. Sorry, the answer given is CA in Germany. The correct answer was CA in Netherlands. So I'm going to show you, I asked this question in the morning again to ChatMDR, and here is the answer it gives. So it refers to the article 87. And if you want to know what is Article 87, you can click on it. So it says reporting serious incidents and field safety corrective action. So it's the text of MDR, what you have to do in these cases. And also it says clarified by MDCG. We come back to this MDCG in a minute, but the answer that ChatMDR gave us, we have to inform the competent authority of Germany, where the CE mark device is sold, any member state in the CA where the device is available. We also need to inform our authorized representative in Netherlands and inform EU distributor of the FSCA. And in this case, it says since your Class 1 device, you have a Class 1 device, there's no need to inform the notified body because you don't have a notified body. And so to confirm this answer, if this is correct, you can, of course, check the text of the law, or you can, or also the MDCG guidance that is referred here. So I click on the MDCG guidance, I can open it. I have already opened that reference, so it's a reference to question 18. I go to question 18 in the MDCG, and indeed it says that if you have an FSCA undertaken in the third country, you need to report this to your authorized representative and all the EU member states where your device is available. So I can confidently say ChatMDR was actually correct, and we didn't have an option in the RAC exam to say that you have to report to Germany and Netherlands. So we found this question quite unambiguous, and we actually learned something by ChatMDR.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of where an AI can actually generate a new insight and not just answer a question. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Dina, is that treat it as a discussion partner and not necessarily just a question and answer machine. Okay, speaking of questions and answers, are there questions from the floor?
We have several questions. Are there any symbols fixed prompt setup we can use to affect the output? E.g., I read about the memory prompt.
Yeah, we don't have fixed prompts set up. That's actually something that we have on our roadmap. So right now we are going to doing webinars like this, but also set up a prompt library that you can copy paste from. So we don't have like a prompt memory that you would be able to pull from in the tool. That is something that we're planning to do, but it's not available at the moment, unfortunately.
We have another question from another participant. ISO 13485 requires an internal audit. Can this tool be used for that? Have you got any experience for that?
So the short answer is yes. The long answer is that it is a little bit. It takes a little bit of setting up. The reason that it takes a little bit of setting up is that if you're going to audit, you're going to go into various parts of your QMS, right? You're going to audit a lot. It's not just one document. This is typically called agentic behavior. So then you have an agent. An AI agent would go through all the topics and audit topic by audit topic would do that. Right now, we don't have agentic behavior in the tool. In fact, that is something that is not available on commercial bots either. You see agents in software development a lot, where they say, you have a big code base and go through all the files and see if there are security flaws, right, for cybersecurity analysis. So at the moment, that's not possible. You can do it topic by topic. So let's say you have in your enterprise file base, you have your entire QMS and you have your product documentation. Then you can say, now audit my risk analysis procedure. And then it will go and do that one part. But if you say, audit if this complies to ISO 13485, it won't have the full scope and it won't do everything. So you'll have to do it bit by bit, but then you can do it, yes.
So Maarten, before I read the next question, you mentioned something about enterprise model. Can you please tell us a bit more, because the next question is also relevant to this. Thank you.
Oh yeah, okay. So we have two versions of the tools, ChatMDR and so on. The first one is on the web. You go to our website and you sign up and you put your credit card information and you're in. That's an individual subscription. Now for businesses, we launched, what was it, 2 months ago, I think, we launched an enterprise version that allows you to upload files. So you can have, well, like I said, QMS or technical dossiers or your clinical evaluation information, and you can upload that and then select which files it needs to use for your next question. So if you're a medical device manufacturer, then you don't maybe want to always include all of your devices. If you're a consultancy firm, then you may only want to ask a question about the data of one customer and not two or three. So you can select which files to then use. And that's where, so you have an additional retrieval augmented generation. You have your own RAG with your own files. And that can be anything, Word, PDF, Excel, what you put in there.
And for those that they don't want to put their credit card information, they can send an email to us. And with this email, you can get a year subscription, but you need to send us an email and request that. So next question, participant asked, how can ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, ChatFDA handle updates on the regulation? So how can it forget the previous information from previous version and handle them and answer the users?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the answer is very simple. It's a manual thing. So, well, almost manual. We have actually an AI bot running every day to scan for new guidances, for example. And of course, every once in a while, the regulation also gets updated, Article 10A as an example. So we have a bot that monitors that. And then we, humans, curate that information. So it's a manual process. We deliberately don't do it automated because we want to maintain the quality.
So another participant is asking a question that I think is really relevant question for the people new in medical device regulation world. The user is asking, the participant is asking, I'm new in medical device regulation and I am on learning phase. Will this tool be helpful to grasp knowledge, understanding of MDR? I'm planning to take the RCC MDR certification.
Yes, I think so. I think this is a very helpful tool to learn things. Of course, you can ask it to explain, and it never gets tired. This is a teacher that never gets tired, right? You can explain and say, hey, yeah, dumb question, but how about this? It will keep going. So you can use it for deeper understanding. You can also use it as a teacher. right? You can say, okay, I have the exam coming up. Quiz me on some topics. You know, you can paste in a test exam and say, okay, now randomly give me answers. If I get it wrong, explain why I got it wrong. So you can use it as a lector, you could say, right, to explain things to you, but also as a tutor to test you and quiz you. And you put in an answer and says, well, that's pretty good, but did you think about this and that? So you can, and that's a prompt where you would say, I'm learning MDR, more or less like your question. I'm learning MDR, and I want to deepen my knowledge of this and that subject. Can you explain how it works, and then give me some quiz questions, and it will do it. It will do it.
And I have to be honest, I have a lot of, well, I have around 9 years of experience in regulatory affairs, and I'm still learning from ChatMDR. So it's a great tool to just go through the regulation and also get more insights. And sometimes I am also really surprised how much I can learn from it. We have another question from another participant. Maarten and Dina, thank you very much for this insight. I work at a large academic hospital, so my MDR scope focuses mostly on in-house development for Healthcare Institute, Article 545, and clinical investigation from investigator source, not necessarily the sponsor and manufacturer, which means that require a lot of national rules and regulation as well. To what extent does ChatMDR have knowledge of, or can it include local national regulation? Maybe Maarten, you can say something about our new collaboration.
Yes. So first of all, we are setting up collaborations with Exxon lawyers to help us do this sort of thing, to include the national regulations by default. They're not in there right now. Another use case that we're looking at is what are the requirements for authorized representatives, for example. But right now it's just the European regulation or American regulation. However, there are two ways that you can do it. First is add your regulation to the context window, copy paste the whole darn thing. It might be big, depending on which regulation it is. The other and probably recommended way is if you're in the enterprise version, then make a folder, Dutch regulation, German regulation, French regulation, and you can select one or two or all. Well, your hospital is in one country, so you'd probably only select the country of your hospital. And then you actually put the regulation in that folder, and it will treat it almost equivalently to how MDR is being used. So then you can really use the national regulations as well. That's the approach I would recommend you take.
Another question is, do you have to copy paste wording of a PDF into the question, or can you upload PDF into ChatMDR?
At the moment, you have to copy paste. So you cannot upload. In the enterprise version, you can upload a file, and it becomes part of the RAG, as I explained. You cannot at the moment upload one PDF into your context window. That's something we're looking into. But as I explained, the context window is limited in size, so we have to make sure that it fits. But at the moment, you would have to copy paste the text, which is what we did for the podcast. It's not super elegant, but the fact that the copy paste doesn't look great, right? You get the footnotes and the page numbers, that doesn't matter. The AI will ignore that. So copy paste away, I would say.
The participants ask, can I interface with ChatMDR? I'm not sure.
Interface, yeah, of course, it's hard to now ask a follow-up question. It's not a chat. There is a so-called API, so application programming interface, that is intended to link ChatMDR or IVDR, etc., to your own application. That's currently in beta. So if you send us an email, then we can provide you with the information and also a key, access key. And during the beta, access is free as well, so you can experiment away. The interface is compatible to OpenAI, so if you can talk to OpenAI, you can talk to us as well.
People are asking how can they sign up to platform, and they want a link to the sign up page. And
yeah, well, that's a very simple one. You go to chatmdr.eu or chativdr.eu. Actually, they all end up in the same website, more or less. And then you click on the launch button. It will show you the application, and then you can. There's a blinking button even. It says blinking on the screen. You can log in or sign up for free, or you can put a credit card information. As we said, you get the premium version with all the features. Most people try the free version first and say, "Oh, this is awesome," and then they sign up. Again, if you don't like the credit card handling, then we can do a purchase order for your organization as well.
We have a question that is keep on coming back from all the audience. Will you use our data to train ChatMDR?
Yeah, it's a good question. The answer is really simple and very short. It's no. So the Create tools, ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, ChatFDA, and ChatAI Act do not use the data for model improvement, and that is actually to a point that it's holding us back, because if, let's say, a certain question is asked many times and the answer is not satisfactory, we could see that in log files. If we kept the log files, we could see that, and we could improve the model, but we don't. So we make a really strong point of not using your data for anything. We don't look at it. We don't give it to anybody. We don't train our products on it. So what it does mean is that every time you go into the tool, you may have to specify some device details or some company details, because the models don't improve at the moment, right? So it's deliberately done for trust reasons. I think people would not trust an AI tool with their corporate data if they weren't absolutely sure that it wasn't shared. So it's for good reason. But actually it does pose limitations, but we took those deliberately and said, okay, this is the way to do it.
So we have a question in the chat, not the Q&A. Somebody asked, and how about sending data to the USA cloud providers? Are guardrails in place to protect intellectual properties?
There are. The guardrails are in place. So a little bit of technical background. The tools are hosted in the EU. They're hosted in Frankfurt, to be precise, at Amazon. That is, of course, an American company. And the OpenAI AI models are also, of course, owned by an American company. The guardrails in place are paper, right? I'll be very honest. They are contracts between us and the providers that say, we shall not use your data, we shall not do this. There are certain tick marks you can set in OpenAI, for instance, that if you provide your data for training, you actually get better prices from them. We have switched all the tick marks off. Opted out of all those things. And but if they were nefarious actors, as could happen anytime, could happen with your internet provider, if they are nefarious actors and they decide to do it anyway, well, okay, that is something we cannot protect ourselves from. But the contract, the legal basis is that very explicitly, no, this data will not be used, stored, etc., etc.
If you have a way of writing in sentence structure, grammar, and use of acronyms, would the platform remember your style?
The platform doesn't remember your style, as I explained in the previous answer. It doesn't learn about you, but you can very easily say, we use in our organization this sort of acronyms. Of course, in the enterprise version, you can have a folder with acronyms or conventions, and it will take those into account. What I found myself experimentally, and there's a lot of experimenting, maybe that's the last tip of the webinar, play with this thing, because then you get better at it. If you put a text in and it has ABC and DEFG and all your acronyms, it will actually replicate that. It will understand that that's how you talk within the context of the one chat, and it will take that on. What it won't do, as I explained, is when you were talking in a certain way yesterday, it doesn't record it, because we don't want to steal or borrow your data. So then you have to teach it again. That's inherent limitation. If everyone has an idea how to get around that, then we'll be open to it. But we find data privacy so important that we have decided to do it this way.
We have one question coming. The question is that, do you think AI will ever truly understand context like a human does? Or is it always pattern prediction?
That's a really good question. I think the word understand, you could probably debate what is understanding, right? Because a large language model is a pattern predictor. It is. But functionally speaking, I think it does understand context and, again, understand context and connections between information, because it has been trained on a lot of a large body of information that uses these deductions written by humans, and now increasingly also generated by AI. So that will be an accelerating trend. What I think the AIs will be able to do, and maybe are already much easier able to do than humans, is connect all sorts of snippets of information, exotic things, something buried deep down in a blue guide. It will find it. It knows about this information, whereas people, we would forget. A computer doesn't forget. So I think that for those use cases, I think AI will be more advanced, or maybe already is. Where I think the human will always have the edge is judgment, the intuition, if you will, right? So you can fake intuition by having a lot of use cases and say, okay, in this case, these facts, the human chose A, the human chose B, or this direction. But the true feeling of there's something fishy going on, or wait, we shouldn't do that, this is not ethical, that for me will always reside with the human. So in terms of, again, I'm being careful with the word understanding, but when context is available to use it, I think AIs would really be very, very effective, and thereby also a great help to us humans. Where I think our role will always lie is to make the hard choices and to use intuition. I think that is not easily replicated by AI. I'm not saying it cannot be creative, but I think judgment is really something that is human at the moment.
And Maarten, can we upload documents to ChatMDR?
Yes, you can. I haven't showed that. There was no time. Maybe for a future webinar, that would be very interesting. There is a version of the ChatMDR tools that's called Enterprise, and Enterprise is aimed at small, medium-sized, or even large businesses that want to collaborate on a set of documents. Now, what Enterprise does, you can see it on the ChatMDR website. There's a page about it. It actually gives you your own server. So within the Amazon cloud, you even get an extra layer of security by getting your own server. And on that server, you can upload your documents. And then you can use the retrieval augmented generation. So query your documents, be it a technical file or a QMS or both. Then you can use it that way. The reason for this separation is that, again, your documents are your documents. We want no part of it. We don't want it in a shared application, even if in that shared web application we would have guardrails. We just say, okay, no risk. We put it on a separate server, and that version is called Enterprise. I was going to say one more thing. Oh yes, if you don't want to upload a full document, the simplest thing is what I showed in the MDCG podcast example. You can just go to Word and do copy and then paste, and then you can also add information in the context window directly. You can add quite a lot. I mean, don't put a megabyte in, but if you put a number of pages of text, that's no problem.
Talking about the podcast, you can find our podcast, MDR Chats by ChatMDR, on Spotify. And as you can see, the latest podcast was about interplay between MDR, IVDR, and the AI Act. It's a 14-minute podcast. I truly love it myself, and it's completely AI generated. We have also podcasts on all the other MDCGs, and more is coming. So if you want to stay up to date with what we are developing, feel free to follow us on Create website, and to be able to use ChatMDR go to chatmdr.eu. Here is the website. You can also go to chativdr.eu or chatfda.us. And once you register, you can use all the chat tools. So with one registration, you have access to ChatMDR, ChatIVDR, ChatFDA, and all the models that Maarten just mentioned. If you have any
Dina,
questions,
can I answer one question that wasn't asked? Now that you have the screen open and you mentioned the recent MDCG, there is at the bottom left of the screen, there is an indication when the last moment was that data was added, and that, as you can see, is now set to 30th of April. We are on the eve of a update release where we will include new FDA guidances and the MDCGs. I think yesterday came out 2025-7, if I'm not mistaken. So periodically we update, and in that little bar, you can always see what's the latest. So if you want to know something about 2025-7, then the model won't know about it. You can paste it in the context window, but that's always good to keep an eye on.
So if you have any question, feel free to write to us on LinkedIn, or you can send us an email, info@create-ra.com. Thank you so much for this. Thank you, Maarten, for this presentation. I hope our audience found it insightful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us. And thanks again, and hope to see you again next time.
Thank you.